In this video, we're going to talk about some MPT timing tips. We know that timing is very challenging for many people who have taken the bar exam or who are preparing to take the bar exam. So if you find yourself struggling with an issue of timing here for MPT purposes, please know that you're not alone. And hopefully these tips can help you out and help you to improve your timing overall. So our first tip is to skim the table of contents before you read the task memo. So usually I would tell you to just simply start your MPT by reading the task memo. But if you find that you do struggle with timing, maybe take a step back and make your first initial step reading that table of contents. And again, you're just skimming it. The reason you might find this helpful is because you can do this rather quickly, probably in a minute or less even. But it does help by providing you with valuable information. So for instance, you'll get a very quick feel for whether or not you're going to encounter statutes or cases or rules or some mixture of all of that. The reason this is helpful is sometimes students have slightly different timing approaches based upon what their library consists of. For instance, sometimes people need a little bit more time reading if it's a statute-based library versus case-based. So if it sounds like I'm describing you, or if you do have slightly different approaches for timing as it relates to what your library consists of, then maybe start your MPT practice by reading that table of contents first. Our second MPT timing tip is to practice MPTs to figure out your best outlining method for you. So our general advice is that you should spend about half of your allotted time reading and outlining, and then the other half of your time writing your response. And this is a really great starting point for anyone. So if you don't know if you struggle with timing or if you haven't really practiced, this is a good first place to start. But from there, feel free to tweak it a little bit. Some people find that they need even 5 more minutes to read, and that additional 5 minutes of reading and outlining really helps them work more quickly when it comes to actually writing and putting all the information together. Some people say the opposite. They read faster, and therefore they need a little bit less time to read and outline, but they want more time or they need more time to work. So again, by practicing and kind of playing around with a good timing and outlining method, you can see what works best for you. And when I say outlining method, for instance, I would recommend against outlining on scratch paper and then transferring all of that to your computer on ExamSoft. Instead, if you can take notes in your computer screen and use those notes for the final product, you're going to find that you can work quicker. Our third tip for MPT timing tips is as you read cases, get in the habit of focusing on the facts that the court uses in its analysis. Something that we see people struggle with a lot is when they encounter cases in their library, they try to brief them like they would back in their 1L year of law school. But the reality is that's not impressive, and that's not what the MPT is asking you to do. And more likely than not, you're wasting time. So if you're having a hard time sifting through facts and deciding what's relevant and what's not, and what you should be using and what's not, something that needs to make its way into your final product, get in the habit of paying attention to what facts the court uses in reaching its decision. Those are the facts that you want to highlight in your final response. Those are the types of facts that you want to keep in your mind as you go through your file. Our fourth tip for MPT timing tips is to pay attention to any sort of special formatting in the library cases. So for instance, be on the lookout for bolded and or italicized words. This is important because the examiners did that on purpose to have it stand out to you and hopefully catch your attention as to its importance. So maybe if you see a key word bolded or italicized or underlined, you might want to utilize that in your response here on the MPT. Additionally, if you see a rule statement or a list that's numbered, it's likely you need to do that as well. You should probably number it and organize it in a similar fashion for your rule statement in your final product. And if it's a long rule statement with multiple elements, you might find that each of those elements needs to be its own subheading, for instance. So again, pay attention to how they format those things because likely that formatting is there for a reason. And our fifth and final tip for some MPT timing help is if you encounter a library that's only statute-based, meaning they only contain statutes and nothing else, double check your file to see if there's some sort of memo that discusses the key provisions of the statute. So if you do say encounter your library and it's all statutes, go back to the file real quick and see if it's directing you in any way, shape, or form as to what's important in that statute. If you find that you have statutes, but you have case law as well, the case law is usually very helpful at guiding you as to what's important in that statute, because not the whole statute will not be relevant for the most part. If you don't have any extra guidance to help you figure out what's important parts of that statute and what's not, please get in the habit of reading the statute in its entirety before you begin to try to dissect it and use it. Oftentimes it's helpful to read the whole thing and figure out how the different parts or provisions of the statute relate to each other. That might give you a little bit of better guidance about how you should be using it in response to the task provided. So we hope that you found those 5 tips helpful to perfect your timing on the MPT.